I know it just seems like one big run-on sentence, but it's actually a podcast. Here's what's coming up on The Nice Guys today.
I will tell you what I did during the Q&A after the coffee spill. I raised my hand and she looked at me and I said, I have a question, Mrs. Post. I said, let's say you're at a public event and let's say you spill coffee all over yourself. And let's say maybe you scream out an expletive. How does one dig out of that hole? And, the people there are obviously getting in on the joke and laughing. And you know what she said to me? She goes, you just did.
So, Joy, have you ever been to a Turkish prison? Do you like gladiator movies? The Nice Guys want to know. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
So you might be wondering exactly why Strickland's voice is so low, and it sounds like he's actually the announcer for a golf tournament.
Here we are on the 18th hole. He's got about a 50-foot putt, and I think he's going to pull out the podcast. He's going to definitely reference, might be John Lee Dumas, maybe Tim. Oh, no, he's going to the Nice Guys on Business. Wow, that's a bold move.
So we're sitting in the waiting area. Our plane is about to take off to head back to Washington, D.C. from L.A. We've spent this past week at a podcasters conference, and we completely realized how unprepared we are for the upcoming week.
By the way, welcome back. My name is Strickland Bonner. On the other side of the microphone, Mr. Doug Sandler.
Can you lose that voice and bring back the regular?
I'm not sure. I feel like I have with our headphones on and okay, maybe I can.
So just set up, give everybody the setup of where we actually you know me, I like a little bit more details than less details. So we're sitting in LAX airport. And or do you have to say LAX airport, or you just say we're sitting in LAX?
Yeah, I think people probably know it's an airport when you say LAX.
All right, so we're sitting in LAX, and there's about 4 million people here.
Yeah, pretty much. It's about right.
And everybody is staring at Strickland with his headphones on.
Yeah. Talking to the microphone, sitting next to Doug, talking into his microphone.
Well, you know what's so great about this, though, Strick? We're sitting in LAX, and we are in probably the media town of the world, and we're worried that we have a microphone in front of our face.
I'm sure people think we're like movie producers and we're pitching or something.
Oh, well, that could be the case. It could be the case.
We're recording our amazing ideas so we don't forget them.
Oh, do we have some amazing ideas? You didn't tell me to be prepared with the amazing ones.
No, but I think that's what people might think.
Oh, no. Oh, you mean these people that are walking through the airport?
Exactly.
No, people. It's a total fuckery going on over here also.
Total fuckery. Just in case anybody was listening.
So, Strick, as you were here in LA, did you see any stars at all? Just tell me the countless numbers of stars that you actually saw. Anybody?
I'm looking at one right now, but other than that, no, and I don't know who she is. But no, I really don't.
There's a star here, really?
Yeah, right behind you in the striped dress there. Yeah.
Oh, she's not a star. She's a hooker.
Oh, shit. I thought I saw so many stars.
No.
The whole week.
No, you would be seeing stars if you were hanging out with her.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Well, so we are actually officially the welcoming committee for Gate 11A as people are coming in. They're seeing two guys just standing with their microphones or sitting with their microphones as they're coming out of the where do you think they're from? Where do you think these people are actually coming in from?
I have no idea. No idea. Looks like someplace warm, maybe? I don't know. Every place is warm right now this time of year.
So you'll be hearing every once in a while you'll be hearing some Spanish speaking overhead.
Don't we have an interview today, Doug?
We do. It's Randall Kenneth Jones is our interview today.
He's a West Coaster, right? No, he's Florida. He was on the West Coast, wasn't he?
I don't know if he was from the West Coast, but I know that he moved to Naples, Florida, where a number of famous stars actually go. Where do the stars go to retire?
Naples, Florida.
Florida. So, yeah, he's actually met with some heavy hitters. Barbara Corcoran, Pat Benatar, Brian Boitano. He's got some pretty good A-listers on his... Well, is Brian Boitano, would you consider him on the A-list?
He's a little further down the alphabet, I think. Not sure how far. Not going to say.
But I put Pat Benatar still on the A list.
No, I would like to say that. I love Pat Benatar and her amazing guitar player husband, Neil Giraldo, who actually played the solo on Jesse's Girl on Rick Springfield's song, random, stupid rock and roll fact that I have stuck in my head. But I don't think they're really even A-list anymore. But it's okay. It's still good stuff.
It's good stuff.
It's really good stuff.
And you know what's really great is the personality that Randy has. He brings out the best, even of the A's and the A- list. Mm-hmm. You probably shouldn't insult the guest that he's interviewed, because he's coming on the show and he's a guy that we want to make sure we treat well, don't you?
And Hoda Kotb, I mean, she's still on the Today Show now. She's kind of A-list.
Okay.
Cynthia Rhodes from Dirty Dancing. Do you know who that is?
No, which one was she?
She was the girlfriend or the ex-girlfriend of Patrick Swayze. She's a hottie.
Well, wait, was that Ghost or was that
no? Patrick Swayze did Dirty Dancing before Ghost. That was the first one that got him kind of.
He was in Grease too, wasn't he?
No, that was. We are so far off topic.
Was that John Travolta?
You know, he has a book too.
Who does? John Travolta has a book.
Randall. Our interview today, you remember?
Oh, Randy's got a book?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I keep forgetting that we had somebody on the show.
Yeah, I know.
Today.
I keep trying to remind you. That's my job.
He's got a book called Show Me. He's actually, I got together with Randy as through the Maxwell James agency.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Kim Tracy and the gang over at Maxwell James. Is that somebody talking?
Yeah. But hey, that's
this is what
the
you get.
ambiance of the show today here from LAX.
We're
live and direct from LAX.
We're just sitting in our glass enclosed studio. We've piped in LAX.
We sent an email out actually to our Funkin' fans and listeners and said, "Hey, we're going to be doing a live episode. Why don't you come join us at LAX?" And I think they had trouble getting through security. There was a huge group. There was like 100 listeners out there, and they're like, "Hey, we want to be part of it." We're like, "Well, we need to get to our gate." And they're like, "We can't get
next
to
time,
the
Strick,
gate."
we probably should go outside, maybe to like baggage claim.
We totally
so
should have
Funkin'
thought
fans,
of this
next time we do this, we're going to meet you in baggage claim. But since neither Strick nor I brought our ID, we can't leave the airport.
But we appreciate the 100 or so listeners that actually showed up and are sitting outside at the ticket gate. Yeah.
Thank you. Funkin' fans, while you are tuning in here right before we get to the interview with Randy, just a quick mention: if you're listening on Overcast, which we know that a huge percentage of you are, you've let Jeffrey Gittimer and Jen Glackow actually with their show Sell or Die slip right by us. We were in the number 1 position. Now we're in the number 2 position. Guess which show we're behind?
Jen and Jeffrey.
And Jeffrey, Sell or Die. So
I bet they got to number 1 because of their interviews from our show last week.
I would like to think that, but somehow I'm thinking that we are in the shadow of a Jeffrey Gittimer.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the cruel irony that we've catapulted them up to this spot on
I'll go with that.
Overcast. I'd like to think of it that way.
I'll go with that. So if you are listening on Overcast, take a moment. Just please recommend the show. Right next to the play button, there is a little star button. Just hit the star button. Go back.
Yeah, well,
got all choked
Doug
up.
Jokes on his, on his bagel and his avocado.
Hey, I'm not eating anything right now. You know that. I'm much more professional than to eat or drink on the show. Anyhow, so Overcast is the way to recommend us. The little star key next to the play button, please do that. Take a moment and go back in a whole bunch of episodes. And all right, so should we just get to the interview?
I think we should. I think Randy's a little tired of us not talking about him.
Yep, so let's do Randall Kenneth Jones, the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Here is our interview. With famous names on his friends roster like Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank and 80s rock star Pat Benatar. Oh, hit me with your best shot. I love Pat Benatar. Hall of Fame quarterback Sonny Jurgensen and celeb apprentice and primetime TV host Jeffrey Hazlett, Randall Kenneth Jones has taken the long way home and discovered that life is full of everything except shortcuts. Here to dish a little bit, dive and deliver on the Nice Guys. Welcome, Randy, to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Well, hello, nice guys.
You've been everywhere, man. I mean, I'm looking Hoda from the Today Show. You've interviewed. You're like the shit, man. How have you arrived at this spot and done it so surreptitiously under the radar screen that I'm just finding out about you now?
Well, the book that I wrote, Show Me, only came out a few months ago, so that's relatively new. No, I was almost 50 and I moved to Naples, Florida because I could. We are in a position we can all pretty much work from wherever. And as a content person and a marketing consultant. I could work from anywhere. And we moved down here, and I picked Naples because I really knew that a lot of very successful people lived here. So I went to the Naples Daily News because I wanted to meet them. And considering they were spending $1,500 a plate and I go to IHOP, you know, I was going to have a problem going to the same events. And I said, hey, does anybody interview these successful people that live here full-time or part-time?
Hold on, maybe I'm confused. Is there a lot of, I don't know Naples very well. Is there a lot of famous people that live in Naples that I'm just?
It's really, truly unbelievable. It's really, as far as C-suite people who retire and come down here or have homes and live here, it's unbelievable the number of people I can run into at Walgreens. I'm serious.
Wow.
And I knew that. And I knew that coming here, and I went to the newspaper and I said, hey, you know, can I interview them? They said yes. And in 4 years, I interviewed over 100 people, but I didn't stick to simply the C-suite. Obviously, I really kind of thought, well, wait a minute, everybody works.
Right.
And so I got like Jungle Jack Hanna. I was introduced to him really quickly. Cassie DePaiva from Days of Our Lives, the bad girl on Days of Our Lives and One Life to Live. And I thought, well, wait a minute, you know, a lot of people talk about office drama, but have they done it with a soap star? So I really departed to the people who were here full-time or part-time or passed through or had some sort of connection to the community.
So you move to Naples and you meet all of these people they're big time, but you were eating flapjacks and they were eating caviar. Is that the way it was?
That's absolutely right. That's right. And in order to meet them, I had to, you know, find a workaround.
So what was your workaround?
By going to the newspaper and saying, does anybody talk to people about best practices in business and things like that? And they said, no, do you want to do it? And I said, I absolutely do.
So who in that crowd, in that $1,500 plate group, those celebs, was everybody very open to you and having the conversation? Because I would think that people are like, who the fuck are you? I mean,
no. And they did.
Yeah, they did.
No, a lot of people said no. And there's a huge list of people who said no. But, you know, and I did it on my own. And, you know, basically the Naples Daily News published it, but I went out and did the pitches on my own and approached the people on my own and tried to be respectful and interesting enough to get their attention. Now, it didn't hurt that, for example, a gentleman named Phil Buth, who's the former president of Good Morning America, was one of my first people.
Yeah,
and
okay.
He introduced me to Jack Hanna. And he also introduced me to Regis Philbin.
Wow.
So within my first 2 months, I had 3 pretty big hits. So, you know, and people were evaluating me pretty quickly based on who I had already talked to.
Well, Randy, what was the goal did you have in mind that, hey, I'm going to write a book, or was the goal, I'm just going to interview these people and let's see where it goes?
No, I knew all along I was going to write a book, and which helped tremendously because when, you know, writing and doing all these interviews and writing all these columns that became the book, I don't tell the same story over and over and over again. I knew every time I interviewed somebody, I had to come up with something new. Now, certain things like listening, the importance of listening came up a lot, and person to person, real face to face communication came up a lot. But no, I had to actually make sure that I wasn't telling the same story over and over and over again. But, you know, a lot of it was more selfishly motivated than that. Might have been pushing 50 at the time, but, you know, it's never too late to learn, and I love to learn.
So so you interviewed all these people, and what were they thinking they were doing? I mean, I know you weren't misleading them, but what were you were compiling something. What did you share with them as a way to kind of lure them into at least having a conversation with you?
I was looking to discuss with them best practices in business from a personal and professional development side. I mean, I really don't think the way I live my life, it's all blended together. I don't think there's a really big difference between personal development and professional development. So, you know, name dropping who I had talked to, but that I also was pretty clear that I was looking for the best in people.
Right.
And it's not that I didn't just tell all these sweet stories all the time, but I really was like, can't we just talk to people and actually look for what we can learn from them that's positive? Do we have to be so insanely negative at all the time? And of course, I started the interviews in 2012. The book came out at the very end of 2016 in the most hateful time in our country's history for me. During my lifetime, I never could have anticipated more hate and anger happening around the launch of this book that was based on trying to look for the best that people could offer me.
Well, so tell me about this interview strategy to build your content, because I mean, probably I'm assuming you can assume this, as I'm a believer in it, having interviewed, I don't know, several hundred people on my podcast. Some people have a hard time interpreting content, or maybe get a bit afraid of losing some identity when they're interviewing. Like, you'll lose your identity, the reason why you wrote the book, because these people will take over and only them will come through. And how do you draw power from your interviews? Yeah, am I being clear, or is it a little fuzzy still?
It's a little fuzzy.
Okay, that's okay. So you interview a whole bunch of people and you're trying to pull things out of them and you're trying to get information from them. But you also want to share with your reading audience your identity, what you are trying to accomplish from this book. I mean, what you're trying to get out of it. You're not just sharing their story, you're sharing your interpretation of their story through your eyes. How do you then become this expert in what space while you're sharing the stories of other people?
Well, I went into it to have conversations like we're having now. I had questions written down. I had different ideas of things I would want to pursue with them. But it's amazing what you can get out of somebody if you're respectful, listen, ask good questions, and pick up upon what they say. And go down this tangent and go down that tangent. I didn't worry so much until I had the interview in the can about exactly how I was going to present it.
Okay.
But I had to play the cards I was dealt. Some people were phenomenal interviewees. Some people were less comfortable. Well, I'm not going to point out that they weren't as comfortable being interviewed. That's no point in that. I'm looking for what was the best focus of what they did share, and how can I interpret that and elaborate on it in a way to hopefully help people.
How did you handle some of the egos? And I'm sure you had a number of egos in there. Now, not saying that Barbara Corcoran or Aaron Brockovich or even a guy like Jeffrey Hazlett has a big ego, but I know some people out there might have a big ego. So how did you handle that?
I got to tell you, I really didn't encounter it. I swear to you.
That's amazing.
I thought everybody, were some more polite than others and some more professional and serious. Sure. And I accept that. It's okay to be a little bit more to the point and professional and serious, but I really do not feel I interviewed one single ego. They may have started out that way, and I can't say what my magic sauce is that got them past that, but I really felt like my focus on having a conversation with a person somehow broke down the barriers. And hopefully I appeared to be interested and sincere, and hopefully I appeared that my heart was in the right place. I think it was. People had conversations, and I didn't see ego. I really, truly did not.
So the book is called Show Me, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, so Show Me, who was any standouts in the book?
Well, I mean, there's a ton. There's
if you had to pick, I know you're being diplomatic here, but if you had to pick one or two or maybe a handful, who would you throw in there?
The people that stick with me the most. Suze Orman said something to me. And her quote to me was, every new moment you spend with anybody and anything has to be a new moment and not just a recreation of the past. And if you think about that, that haunts me. How many of us, including me, are living Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
The same thing over and over again. I have that in front of me. I do spend a lot of my time working, by myself. I'm a writer. So I'm alone. So even that challenges me. How do I change my day when I spend a lot of it corresponding with the computer?
Yeah, I'm that
and
way
if
too.
you just use that as a benchmark for how to live your daily life, I think that's really the single most powerful quote that really changed my life. The other thing is I interviewed James Carville and Mary Madeline.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's power couple right there.
Yeah. What was cool though is I interviewed them, same questions. I did this on purpose. Same questions, different times. So they were not aware of how the other one answered the questions. Now I think they could probably anticipate. But James said something to me that really has helped me navigate all the emotion that surrounds politics right now. And what he said was, you don't change anybody's view of politics. You can only change their view of you. And that really stuck with me. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people out there trying to change people's view of politics, but if we can't have conversations, if we can't sit down and listen to each other and try to understand each other, and we're never going to get to the point where we can agree on anything. It's about trying to listen and understand somebody else's point of view. And I think when he said that to me, he took kind of a load off my shoulders.
Hey, how many people no-showed you?
Absolutely zero people no-showed me. One person canceled at the last minute, but called back, you know, like the next week. Not one person no-showed.
This is just not real life. This is not real life. I don't, even on my freaking podcast, people no-show me. And I'm like, what the heck? You know, I've only sent like 17 follow-up I'm hoping I did a good job with my follow-up reminders. It's an automated system, but I'm hoping you were reminded enough times to be here.
Calling me at 3 a.m, you know, that was a bit much.
You know, to make sure this was the right number. I figured the best way.
Hopefully I was nice. Hopefully I was polite as I was snoring in the phone. No, I didn't have problems with no-shows. I didn't have problems with egos. And, you know, I really do have some people that I consider to be friends.
Did you have any, and I know this wasn't your agenda because just knowing you over the short time that I've known you, I know you're not a gotcha person, but were there any questions that you discovered were gotcha questions after you actually asked the question?
No, I really don't think so. You know, cause that wasn't the goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they perceived it to be a gotcha question, they didn't say anything to me. But
right.
I gotta tell you, there's Aaron Brockovich. I mean, has everybody on the planet seen that movie?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So I write her an email and I don't hear back. So I wait a few weeks. I write her an email. I don't hear back because I knew she was in town speaking at an event. I write her an email. I don't hear back. So my son takes a picture. My son Kevin takes a picture and I'm holding a piece of paper in front of me, kind of looking at it. It says, Aaron Brockovich does not give up easily either. And I'm like, what do I have to lose?
Right.
What do I have to lose?
Right.
I emailed that to her and 1 minute later, she wrote me back.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Minute.
It's amazing.
Yeah, well, and we're the same person. And that's where, you know, when we talk about finding, you know, what's common between people, which I think is so important. We're about the same age. We both were raised in college towns in the Midwest, me in Columbia, Missouri, her in that wretched state called Kansas. Oops, did I say that?
You're so bad.
We bust on each other. Yeah, I told her, I said, go after Missouri, because she actually ended up writing the introduction for the book. I said, go ahead and hit Missouri. It's my book. I'm getting Kansas anyway. So, but you know, we really discovered that we were raised the same. We were raised with the same values. We were raised to be on time. We were raised to be polite. We were raised to be respectful. Our first interview was an hour and a half long, and the only reason we stopped at an hour and a half is we both had someplace to be. And we've still stayed in touch. She can't help herself. Whenever I call her, she can't help but like dig. What's going on? Is everything okay? And she can't help but to be a cheerleader. She cannot help herself.
Yeah, well, she is the world's biggest cheerleader. She definitely is. From all the experiences that she's been through, she's got to be that way. Underdog, cheering all the way through. But
it's so natural. It happens without her even being aware that she does it. It's absolutely amazing. I think Sonny Jurgensen was great, you know, and actually General Barry McCaffrey were great. Now, I was an artsy kid, and I can watch a football game and I absolutely know what I'm watching. And even though I'm built like a football player, I never played. I wasn't interested. But I lived in DC for 25 years, and so I saw Sonny on TV. So meeting Sonny was fascinating, and he and his wife have become so special to me and so incredibly good to me, was fascinating because I didn't know what it would be like to be him and to be a quarterback of a professional football team. I'd never played football. But you know what? Another big lesson for me and everyone else. I went to General Barry McCaffrey and I said, I am not in the military. My father flew a desk in the Korean War of the Air Force for a couple years. I said, I don't know anyone who's actively in the military. I am ignorant about your lifestyle.
They probably respect the fact that you're being as open to that.
Yeah. I just went into it and said, I don't know anything, but you know what? I don't think other people do either. You know, when it comes to what is it like to work in the military, or have a military lifestyle unless you've experienced it firsthand. I don't think people really knew what that was like. And he really, what was supposed to be, it was scheduled for like 10 or 15 minutes, and like an hour later we're still talking. Because I hopefully he said, I really wanted to know. I came at it from a really honest place and said, I don't know what you do. Please help me understand so I can share this with other people. And it was great. But I have to say, Pat Benatar, who you mentioned.
Yeah, I want to hear that. I want to hear that story. I want to hear it because I've heard it and you tell it, and I can only imagine you from stage, man. You've probably got 1,000 stories, and it's like, well, you have 45 minutes to deliver your keynote and deliver some strategy and some content here, and you're probably like 45 minutes. You're just getting through with your introduction because there's just so many fun, juicy, fun stories that you're sharing.
Oh, well, what's cool actually is when I speak or do interviews or anything or go in front of a crowd, because I talk to so many people, I can really customize it. And I get really irritated when I go to a conference and somebody isn't customizing the message.
Yeah.
I mean, that's easy to do, but I got to tell you, gratitude is so huge with my platform. I think it's so easy to say thank you. It's so easy to let people know they're doing good, that you respect them, you appreciate them. It's incredibly easy to do. Well, and I studied theater. As you know, I've been on stage all my life too. I studied theater in college at the University of Missouri, was doing singing telegrams as a job, wanted to meet Pat Benatar in 1982, invented a fan club that did not exist, sent her a singing telegram rewritten, "Hit Me With Your Best Shot," that I rewrote the lyrics, set it up, was granted admission. I was dressed as Prince Charming in purple brocade with the 80s mustache and hair. Was great. Yep. And she sang this song to her, 5 Dozen Balloons. She truly changed my life because she was so gracious and she was so kind. She made me believe, I'm 20 years old, that I could do something with my life.
Now you have maintained that relationship for 30 years.
No. 33 years later.
Okay.
Now, have I stalked Pat Benatar for 33 years? Yeah. I mean, I go to her concerts. I've tried to find ways to reach her. I've been in the fan club, everything. Never happened. Took me 3 years of finessing and talking to the right people on her team.
Yeah.
She was in Naples. I went backstage to wait for her. I took a 0.25 milligram Xanax because I was freaking out. Yeah, Xanax has actually sometimes been my friend. I'm not like little baby Xanax. Just take a little bit of the edge off because I'm freaking out.
Randy, I'm feeling you're a fucking stalker now at this point.
Well,
you're just motivated. That's it. You just have some motivation. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you a stalker or anything.
Than a stalker. That, oh my God, this guy's on drugs and he wanders around Naples.
You didn't carry 5 dozen balloons backstage with you, did you?
In 1982?
Yeah. No. In this next meeting.
Oh, no. Backstage. No.
Okay.
So I go back and I just asked her, did anybody told you the backstory, reminding you of the backstory? I had a picture of the telegram that she had signed. I had our picture. She remembered me.
Yeah, nice.
And she remembered it. And she actually said to me, one of the nicest things I'll ever hear. She said, I don't just remember the telegram. I remember you. And kind of hard not to get a little misty eyed when somebody adore. And she's such an incredibly good person. But 33 years later, what was most important to me is I got to say thank you. I got to thank her for being so gracious and kind and supportive of a 20-year-old that she truly did change my life. And that's a big, huge part of what in fact, she was my mentor. This is what I scream and yell about too. It is too easy with social media and to find your teachers, to find your mentors who have helped you at any point. And as long as they're still with us, it is too easy to find a teacher and say thank you. Easy to do. And I am asking everyone listening to this, please consider tracking down somebody who helped you and saying thank you. and telling them why, because it means a lot. Now mine was Pat Minotaur.
That's all right. That's all right. She hit you with her best shot, and now you gone from there. I heard a story, and there's a ton of them. But as I was looking through like your all of like your bio and your info and doing the research on you and talking to Kim, we were put together originally from Kim Tracy at Maxwell James, right? Is that how we came together originally?
Yes, we did.
So Kim Kim is hysterical also, and I had a chance to interview her just a few short weeks ago, and Nice Guy Community.
And I heard that interview.
That was a good one. And in spite of hearing that interview, you decided that you wanted to come on the show.
I was like, Kim, oh my God, those guys, they don't know what they're talking. No, I was like,
I believe it. So I heard this story about you when you met Peggy Post from the Emily Post Institute. Do you recall sharing that story, or can I ask you?
Oh, I have so many. I mean, Emily Post, wrote Etiquette in 1922, and it was the family has maintained the etiquette empire the entire time.
Yes.
The Emily Post Institute, they're on like edition 19 of that book. I was terrified.
Yeah, so you got a meeting with her. How did you get the meeting?
Well, I knew actually it was through an introduction. Somebody who knew her was gracious enough to set up that introduction. She met me at a Barnes & Noble, and I was absolutely terrified because in my mind, I was expecting her to walk in the door with animated birds circling around her head. I mean, I thought a horse and carriage was going to drop her off. I just thought, and I'm waiting, I'm there like a half an hour early, and I'm like changing tables, and I'm wiping down the tables to make sure they're clean, and then there's the sun, and then I'm afraid I'm gonna spill my coffee all over myself, so I'm drinking, Starbucks, it's like gargantuo coffee, and then like 2 minutes before she gets there, I have to go to the bathroom really bad, and it's upstairs, and I'm running upstairs, and I'm just really 32 minutes of freaking out about meeting her, and she is so delightfully normal and is the easiest human. She wrote the foreword for the book. We have dinner. I mean, we have lunch or dinner all the time. She's a very dear friend of mine, and she knows I'm going to screw up.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I make lots of mistakes. I make lots. I mean,
so did you screw up? Did you screw up at the meeting, or was everything okay?
Well, she kept talking to me, so that was good. We maintained our relationship. I mean, I went to one of her events and I spilled a cup of coffee all over me, like 2 minutes before she was going to go on, and I screamed shit. And an etiquette and manners event, I screamed shit.
How'd they react? Was there just a gasp?
Well, it was kind of, they don't know how to react. So I walk out. I mean, I'm not little. I mean, I'm covered in coffee. I walk outside, and she happens to be outside the door, and she's looking at me. She goes, "What did you do?" And I went, "I spilled coffee all over myself." And she could tell that wasn't the whole story. She said, "What else did you do?" I said, "I may have screamed out of that Peggy Post. I might have." And her comment to me was, "I just wish I'd been in there to see that."
Oh, man.
Above all, she really values people, making people feel comfortable. And that's really what's important to her. Etiquette really is making other people feel comfortable. And it's not white gloves, and it's not animated birds, but I think Peggy would look great with animated birds. I mean, if I could create like the perfect Peggy video, I would animate birds around her head. But
I mean, Randy, you sound like the ultimate nice guy. And I know for a lot of people that doesn't come easy. They have, as you, I'm sure, have as well. You have the monthly struggle, or you have a yearly issue or a budget crunch or something like that happens. Does it come easily for you, or do you find that you have to really work at it?
I think that's a ridiculously great question, because no, you know what? It did. I like to like people. I do. Now, it doesn't mean I always end up being BFFs with everybody, but in general, when I meet somebody, I want to like them. I like people. I'm outgoing. I want to meet new people. But, part of my issue was being, like in my late 40s and becoming jaded and becoming, a little bit weary with the amount of years I've been working, and the kids were in college and all that kind of stuff. And really saying, I want to do this to fight the direction I'm going. Hoda Kotb wrote a book called Where We Belong. And she asked me a very similar question. And I said, I started doing this, Hoda, because I was not where I belonged. Mentally, professionally, I wanted to shake myself up. I also, because I'm pretty chatty, I talk way too much. Before we started this, I said, I can talk for 4 hours, and you've already heard that that's true.
Yeah.
And I thought I really had to fight my own instincts to talk about myself too much, which thank you for making me do that for the last.
No, what was so great about it was when you originally connected with me, and I'm sharing, I hope you're okay with me sharing this with the Nice Guy community, but as you made the connection with me originally, I could tell immediately how personable and how friendly you were, and it was almost like the number of emails that you had sent over to me just making sure that you were prepared is unbelievable compared to the majority of people that come on the show. They're like, I can't even get them to respond to my Q&A. And, you're not only responding to the Q&A, you're sending me links every 7 days before the interview just saying, hey, maybe we should talk about this. Hey, maybe we should talk about that. And then ultimately what it came down to was a day or two ago, Nice Guy community, before the interview, Randy sends me an email saying, I'd really love to have a chat with you maybe 15 or 20 minutes beforehand. I just want to kind of set the tone so I can be so perfect for your audience. And that right there, Randy, says it all about you in how much you care.
Thank you. But you know what? That shouldn't be special. I'm sorry. That shouldn't be special. I'm a Virgo. Okay. Yes, I'm a classic Virgo. I have the list, to prove it. I told a friend of mine during a radio interview, I'm a classic Virgo. He said, you can get a shot for that. So,
true.
So I get that anal retentive side, which benefits my clients big time. But being prepared, being respectful, taking the time to make sure that you've given somebody information they need proactively.
Yeah.
Is proactive thinking dead? Is it just me? Does anybody ever? I think what if all the time, but boy, oh boy, am I subject to a lot of non-what if thinking.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So thank you for what you said, but I don't think that should be special. I don't think that respecting the time somebody is spending with you and making sure they're prepared and giving them information. And, like I said, as a speaker or on a podcast, or whether I was on with Hoda,
right,
you can bet when Hoda Kotb had me on a radio show, I had her prepared. She had everything she needed.
I mean, Randy, I see in your future, if you haven't already thought of this, it's an idea that you definitely should run with. I mean, you are the the perfect person to have a Mind Zoo podcast. I mean, for you, with your personality, your charisma, and your connections, it would be a goldmine for you. I mean, not just from a dollars perspective, but in increasing your connections perspective as well.
Well, you know what? I will. Thank you I would love to take this. I'm a writer, but I'm really comfortable talking to people, and I'm comfortable on camera too.
Right.
So I'd actually like to do this on camera too. But I have to say, even after I was done with the book, it's a drug.
Yeah,
it really became, people say, why'd you do it? It's a drug when you get to meet people, and everybody in the book's not famous, but they had a story to tell. And when you get to meet people, and then let me tell you, the responsibility of taking what they told you, creating a story that was meaningful, and not everything in these, you heard it on early, these are my interpretations.
Yeah.
When I wrote, Barbara Corcoran does not like to be bored, she didn't say that to me.
Yeah.
I figured out Barbara Corcoran didn't like to be bored, and I wrote it. So as a columnist, I was giving my interpretations every single time I published an article on a famous person with my interpretations of who they are and what motivated them. I was scared to death.
Yeah, I get that. But putting yourself out there, I think people really do respect that. And I think that when you're telling your stories from stage, it's not just the actual, this is what happened. It's your interpretation of this is what happened when you said, oh shit, in front of an Emily Post audience. I mean, that is fucking hysterical. I mean, to walk away from that experience and you could have taken it and just said, I'm a complete failure. Or you could have taken it and said, where's the funny in that? And where's the lesson to learn in that? That's the best way.
I will tell you what I did during the Q&A after the coffee spill. I raised my hand and she looked at me.
Uh-oh.
And I said, I have a question, Mrs. Post. I said, let's say you're at a public event. And let's say, let's say you spill coffee all over yourself.
Oh, geez. Okay.
And let's say maybe you scream out an expletive. How does one dig out of that hole?
That's good.
And the people there are obviously getting in on the joke and laughing. And you know what she said to me? She goes, you just did.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, there's a whole lot to be said for humor. There's a whole lot to be said for, I've said before, as somebody who makes my life, my living being creative as a writer, art director, whatever, creativity is a positive X. For those who might be managing people who they expect to be creative in their business, if that creative team is living and working in an impressive environment, you're not going to get anything.
Randy, you are totally an inspiration, and I'm hoping my my nice guy community, my Funkin' fans, the audience that's out there, ladies and gentlemen that are listening to this, I'm hoping that you're getting as much out of this interview as I am. If our community wanted to get in touch with you to find out a little bit more about your writing, or to get your book, or to maybe even bring you in and tell some of these hysterical stories at their company, how can they do that, Randy?
Best way actually is through my website, showmejones.com, and that actually has the link to the cheapest place to buy the book online as well.
Excellent.
So yeah, and I'd love to hear from people. I mean, the other thing I'd say, I realized this was a blessing. I realized most people, I really was an absolute nobody. Well, Randy Jones, which is, I go by Randall Kenneth Jones because Randy Jones is the original cowboy in the Village People, and I'm not kidding. So when you Google Randall,
I did not know that.
Oh, no, it's worse. We have the same birthday. No.
No shit.
So we have the same birthday, and we wish each other, we're Facebook friends and wish each other happy birthday. So on our birthday, but I had to use my full name to be able to do that. But just so you could Google me and find me as Randall Kenneth Jones. But, you know, when I started this, I really was an absolute nobody. And people, I guess I said the right thing and the right way. And I was patient. I have to say, setting up a lot of these interviews, it took, like I said, it took me 3 years of talking to the right people at the right time with Pat Benatar's team to get that to happen.
I love it. I love all the stories. I can feel what you've been through just through my experiences on the podcast with interviewing as many people as we have as well. And, again, you're an inspiration. Nice Guy community. Don't forget to check the show notes. We'll make sure we put links for Randy's book and his website and all of his information about his company as well. Randall Kenneth Jones. Thank you, Randy, for being on the show today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. And let's throw gratitude in there as well. Throw a little bit of gratitude out there to the world today. Steve O'Brien, take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. They have listeners in other countries? I didn't think anyone was listening outside of their house. Except maybe their moms.
Actually, this wasn't as funny as it could have been because I didn't.
You're hilarious. You don't gauge your hilarity. Other people do.
Okay, let me tell you. I told you we didn't get to Barbara Corcoran, but I'm going to tell you the story, and the next time I come on, we'll tell the Barbara story. So I interviewed her over the phone, knowing I would meet her. So I went to her event. My son, who is a videographer, photographer, was there. And it was at the end of the event, but there were still a lot of people milling around, doing meet and greets, getting books signed. And I go up onto the stage area with Barbara, and she knew who I was. And, and it didn't suck. I said, this is my son. And I actually look young for my age. So she thought, were you 10? I mean, because my son actually
right.
looks. Well, and he's like, because I looked very mature in my 20s and I look younger now. And so we're taking these pictures. I said, Barbara, can we please take a picture that doesn't look like your standard meet and greet where we're like arm in arm or whatever? Can we look like we know each other? Barbara Corcoran took my left hand and put it on her right boob.
How's this, Randy?
And I want to tell you, you can actually blush so hard. You circle out of red into purple. No, you start to turn purple. Well, my son is taking the pictures. He basically, holds his finger down. It's like, I'm not missing one second of my dad dissolving. I don't know how long I'm supposed to leave it on there. How long's the joke go? And everything. And then she starts timing. You see her looking at her watch, how long I'm going to grope her. I'm completely losing it. And you know what? Was she being naughty? Of course she was. But you know what she really did? She took my can we please do something different, and she tested me big time. But she knew, I think she pretty much knew that she could get away with pretty much anything with me. Tell people they can. But she was doing it. She was playing into me. She was playing into my personality. She thought, fine, I'll get him. And it wasn't like there were 50 people standing around seeing me grope Barbara Corcoran on stage. I mean, they were there. Gosh. So I get back and I think I'll get her. my designer did a Broadway musical poster, a semblance of a Broadway musical poster, and I have a copy of it. Barbara Corcoran in Handled by the Press, a new musical. And it was like conceived by Barbara Corcoran, directed by Barbara Corcoran, written by, and it's got all these pictures of us and only one real boob grope, because I also knew she had a 9-year-old daughter. So there's one boob grope in there, but we look conspiratorial, and it said, and Randall Kenneth Jones is the innocent gay columnist who fell victim to it. So I get an email back from her, and I get this email, and she said, and I'm paraphrasing, but she was like, I got your poster. It is so funny. You have such a dirty mind. You have such a naughty mind. You've the dirtiest mind around. I absolutely love it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not the one that put my hand on your boob. You did it.
Right.
No one has a dirtier mind than you.